How do you use the 24-hour clock verbally? European, where I live we just read the numbers like 17 or 20 hours and 25 minutes. I only ever use the 12 hours format, so when I see 1834 I read it as it's 6:34 p.m. It's a 24-hour format. In the Netherlands we just say the time that is on an analog clock, so 13 p.m. is 1 o'clock, 14 p.m. 2 o'clock, etc. It is basically the same. Or are you just saying 13 the same way you would say 12? Exactly like that. Although most people use 12-hour format when using time verbally, and 24-hour format when written. Here in Germany we go all the way from 12 o'clock 12 p.m. to 23 or 23 o'clock 11, all using the same system. That said, we may also use the 12-hour format, usually without anything like the m or pm. This information is taken from context, as no one would expect to meet for dinner at 6:30 a.m., for example. That said, we also drop the or o'clock when using 12-hour time. Also, I don't know if this is different in another part of Germany, especially talking about announcing half and quarter hours varies across the country, which I'm not even going to try to explain. I write it in 24-hour format, but say it in 12 hours format. So 21 o'clock is 9 o'clock. We look at the clock and say the time. 20 minutes past 2. It's 2:20, 14:20. In my country, while there is official 24-hour clock adapted, but in everyday talk we use the 12-hour format mostly. In English, I only know that you guys use 12-hour format, because 13:05 sounds weird, man edit. I mean, in my language, it's not weird to say 15 past 23. European here. I sometimes say it in the 12h clock and sometimes in the 24h clock. I can sometimes set it 7.3 go, it's half 8, or say it's 19.3 go. When I was young and in the Scouts we would sometimes say hundreds of hours, etc., but only occasionally. Though the Norwegian Scouts kinda have had a weird connection with the military, tons of what you learn there is vital in the military. The Scouts were even banned by the Nazis during the occupation in WW2. So, Swedish girl here. We just read the numbers. 13 p.m. would be 13:00, 13 p.m. 1823 would be 18:20 or 1823, etc. Sometimes an ok pronounced o, meaning and is thrown in between the hour and the minutes depending on the preferences of the speaker. In speech you will also hear the 12-hour clock being used with context being used to determine whether day or night is being referred to. But it's more uncommon now than when I was a kid. In Denmark we use the 24h system in writing, but use the 12h when spoken, so 1830 would be 6:30 when spoken. We have always done this since we have never had an m or pm form behind in. In UK we speak it as 12 hours. We just note that 14 o'clock is 2 o'clock. In the Netherlands it's 12h verbally and 24h if you write it down, so 13 o'clock is verbally 1 o'clock. You don't in English, but in many other European languages you just read the numbers. 13:24, 7:30, 23:23. Written transport schedules, opening closing times and other official times are practically always in 24h. Verbal is about 50-50 depending on context. 12h is more common for unofficial things like seeing a friend, while 24h is particularly used for those same official times. Also, 24h is used if you really want to make it clear you want someone to be on time. In the Catalan language 11:30 would be 2/4 to 12 dos quarts to dotzi. I personally say 1 p.m. or 1 o'clock, but read the time 24hr, and I will also use 1 m. I think it also depends on preferences, because Europeans are for the most part very different from one another. UK use a mix of clocks, never known anybody to buy just verbalize it as 12-hour time. Like it's useful to have totally disambiguated clocks, for instance on my phone right now. But if my wife asked me the time I'd tell her it's 10 to 10. She knows it's dark outside. When speaking English I just use 12h system, 4:30 p.m. In my own language I'd say something like 16:30. It's with like 6:30, in with like 500 hours, it's 0830, it's 8:30.